There's this element about Vinland Saga which I absolutely adore, and it's this grand scope and adrenaline rush that honestly nearly every single episode gives me, and not just with the main content that we watch, but how it concludes an episode. It gives me that same feeling that I get when I watch an epic trilogy. I can think of things like Lord of the Rings. When the movies are about to conclude, it gets you excited for the journey or battle that is going to happen in the next installment. Here with Vinland Saga, we get it within a week. We don't have to wait a year or 2 years for the next big installment. And I think the reason it has this epic and grand scope to it is because the way this story is structured is it's bigger than one character, it's bigger than one battle, one war, one kingdom. It's this entire world. Everyone has a story to tell, even if it's just a random, mindless soldier just doing his duty. He could easily become something important in this tale because of how it's structured, because they took real-world characters and battles and inspired the story off of them to create this grand scope and vision that is Vinland Saga, and that's why these episodes are so vast and impressive. This episode, from the little details to the big ones, it was just exhilarating. A majority of this episode was just running away from Torkil, and can you get to safety before the big man comes to get you, because more than likely you can't defeat his army. And when I say even the little details are impressive, I mean it. There's like these simple moments where just they'll be walking and you'll see the shadows of the men and just how they stylize and frame shots. You just see tired men walking aimlessly, and then you'll see these gorgeous lit shots of not even looking at the soldiers, but just the shadows and their silhouettes. To then there's this one moment which I absolutely adored. No one's going to care about it but me. But there's a moment where the priest is basically talking about love, and as he starts talking, he starts scratching his hair, and you see like dandruff, lice, just, natural things that would naturally be a part of their bodies because they're not going to be clean and, highly kept up, even if they might look like it. I just love how they'll add in these little details that they don't need to, but it adds on to the immersion to this world that they are Vikings, they've been on the road for months and weeks, like they're not going to be clean. And I love things like that. And since I already brought up, I have to say, that whole conversation with the whole love, probably one of my favorite parts of this episode. The idea of someone discussing love to people who have no idea what that could even be before love is a common, mindset of what people want. How do you weigh that in silver? It's better than silver. Just the idea that a majority of Vikings, the majority of soldiers would be like, what? Is this guy really this drunk that he's making up terms that's more valuable than any silver or women, or just like the natural conversation and just arrogance is fantastic. It's a conversation I didn't think I knew I wanted, but I'm really happy we did, because there's a couple of soldiers who are like, hey, raising a few eyebrows, tell me more about this so-called love, because it's something in modern mentality that everyone universally knows about and accepts and most people desire to have, but in this time period, most people just associate, sex and things like that that's all it is. You drink, you gamble, you have your fun, and that's that. There's no deeper connection for a lot of these characters. And I love how the concept of love isn't something that's widely known or even accepted, but a couple of people naturally would be inspired by it, and that's how it widely spread over time. It's that little touch that really helps to show you that is more than just big battles and epic adventures. It can have that human touch and really excel this series in a remarkable way. Though this episode really did a lot once again for Askeladd's character. He is still my favorite character in this show. Torkil, very close second, followed by Thorfinn, but the man is so interesting because when he doesn't say anything, he just simply marches, tells his men to do things. There's always a story being told there. He's a character that's always pondering, always thinking, always trying to come up with his next scheme, and really deciding his own future and fate. This is a man who has, as he says in this episode, who he can tell everything by the look of a man. He can look at their face and know because, for 40 years he's been traveling with all walks of life. He knows what to expect from someone as he looked. And after seeing a face of the prince, the future king, who has a very feminine face, he doesn't think he's king. And that's kind of shook his mentality. And I like how it's uncertain what he wants for this future heir, because this is a character who easily manipulates. He's been manipulating Thorfinn for how long now? He's someone who could easily say, I don't know what to feel here. I always thought characters such as, the one-hit wonder, Thorfinn's father, I would have loved to follow a guy like that, but he ended up dead. Maybe it's time we don't follow people that we expect to follow. He could easily be thinking that. He could easily be thinking, this is a king who is very timid, who doesn't stand his own ground. I could easily be that person that he trusts in the future, and I can manipulate him. Or, he could be something completely different. This is a character, you don't know what he's feeling, but his men, everyone, the viewer, they know there's something on his mind, and that's going to be interesting to see where he's going to go. Because in this world, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to either end up dead, or maybe a slave, which is pretty much the equivalent of ending up dead in this world, or you're going to become someone special. Now, it is possible for royalty to just survive by leaning on a shoulder, being manipulated, or properly guided. However, I think for a character like Canute, it's either going to be he's going to become a badass, or he's going to stay timid and basically die for all intents and purposes. And I think that's what's incredibly exciting, is that this character's future is going to be fantastic no matter the direction they take it, especially with how Askeladd will incorporate himself into this tale, because right now, he seemingly is following this prince, whether that be for his own manipulation or because he just thinks, God damn, I guess I gotta see where this story is gonna go. So to just have that sequence and just simple dialogue and seeing how wary the men are, like they're nearly passing out just wandering, but they have to do this. This isn't one of those stories where they can get a good night's rest and keep on marching. This is realistic battles and tactics. They are on your ass, you have to keep moving even if it kills you. And I like the idea of reinforcements and how when we get the reinforcements, it's just two people standing in just fog. And I wasn't sure what the hell to expect there. I was like, are these just going to be some highly skilled fighters who are going to take out Torkel? Like, what's going on? And then you see the boats come in and it's like, oh, they're not even fighting. They're just going to retreat to the other side. And actually getting whales in this was a nice twist because currently they're all separated, small little kingdoms. But even though they're not a part of England and things like that, it doesn't mean Torkel can have his own connections to different kingdoms. And that's what's super fun about this, is that there's all these unpredictable elements to the battles and tactics, and I like how even though Askeladd is someone who has his skills fighters and, he's someone who could put up a fight, he's not stupid and recognizes that fleeing to where he needs to go is the proper outcome, and getting, support and things like that. They can't take 3 warships from a very small little kingdom that's basically robbing them blind. So it's like travel by land, but then you get this whole sabotage setup. It's like, this is why Vinland Saga is so epic, and when the music starts playing, from piano to acoustics to just drum beats to get you pumped up, and you see the smugness of Thorfinn, like, this is like, holy shit. This isn't one of those shows where, like, when you get ambushed, everyone walks out alive. They're gonna lose some people, they're gonna lose some horses. However, you also know how skilled some of these fighters are, and even if they lose 90% of their men, if they can survive this, they're probably going to make it to where they need to go and they can regroup and rebuild their army. That's why I love Vinland Saga, is it's this very personal story that whether they're just walking, whether they're fighting, whether having a chit chat about love, everything that this series goes for, it's exhilarating. And the fact that Vinland Saga is such a long-running and just massive world, it's understandable why it can be that. Because no matter who lives or dies in any given arc or episode or chapter of the manga, it's always going to be interesting. Hell, the soldier who talks to the priest saying, hey, tell me more about love, he's probably just going to be that one-time soldier, we're never going to see him again, or he'll pop up every so often. They could turn him into a badass character to follow because in this world, anyone can be important. That's what I love about Vinland Saga, is that everything's important, and especially seen by the production. I love the sound direction in this episode. When they were marching, you heard a lot of just like muddy footsteps, just clattering in the distance. You heard the horses. Like, there's this level of detail, attention to detail that just immerses you into this world. The sound effects, the visual production from directing and how they frame shots, but then the characters themselves, they feel so realistic and immersive, and it feels like we're back in this time period, which is why it's so brutal. You get the setup at the end of the episode, the slavery, and just the reactions. Like, it is so fantastic to see how this world is opening up. And no matter what they give us, I'm in for it. I think it was last week I said I would have been fine with an episode of just Torkel just mocking the whole priest situation. The first half of that episode last week was pretty much just that, and it was exhilarating watching that. This week's episode, a good chunk was them walking and marching and nearly passing out as they contemplate love and just what truly is their leader's intentions and why is he so just weird from what they typically are used to. It's fantastic to see that play out and just seeing characters saying, hey, make this treaty and we'll help you. We'll make sure that you have what you need, and you have this timid and cowardly prince not being able to talk to officials himself, having to pass off to a different ear. It's like there's so many little pieces at play. The big pieces are fantastic, but it's as if every little nook and cranny to the show is supposed to be interesting in itself. Even if you're just looking at vast landscape, that's interesting because of how gorgeous the art is. That's why Vinland Saga is fantastic, and why every single episode has just had my jaw on the floor being like, give me more episodes. Like, I'd binge the remaining of the second core right here, right now, if you dropped it, similar to how you dropped the first 3 episodes. But in a weekly format, it is such an interesting adventure to ponder week by week of where it wants to go, and just really capturing the beauty that this series is aiming for. Fantastic episode, honestly. One of the past few episodes, some of the strongest directing and just immersion, in my honest opinion. Fantastic stuff overall. But what did everyone think? For manga readers, anime originals like myself, let me know down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy this video, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you have been new. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.